Okay, Assalamualaikum and a very good evening to all my classmates. So today I am Nurul Aiman binti Muhammad Jafri, and I and my group are going to present about the concept of diploma disease and its effect on the development. Okay, so Diploma Disease is actually a controversial book written in 1976 by Ronald Dore. So before I go further into the topic, first we need to know why Ronald Dore wrote this book and why he was being very, very critical on the issues. So actually, examination in Europe began in 1970s. In the beginning, exam was implemented to cater the needs for for greater expertise in government and professions. But then examination took on the life of their own. They got out of control. They began as just a test for the competence, and then they develop into tickets for admission to the job market. So Ronaldo described these changes as a toxic to the education. First, people are going into school, college, and university to get access card to the more prestigious profession. Secondly, through professions and vocation, they found that they can improve their status by holding on the diploma. And third, even employers, when they want to hire people to work with them, they found out that they could save themselves time and trouble by using school and university examinations as filters to select the candidates for their jobs. So everybody was obsessed of getting diploma as it might change their status. So that is why Ronaldo stated here, uh, as I've written on the slide, schools used to be for educating people, for developing minds and characters. Today, as job depends more and more on certificates, degrees and diploma, aims and motives are changing. So schooling has become more and more a ritualized process of qualification earning. So although this word was uttered by Ronald Doe in 1976, but his word and concern are still relevant until today. We can see pretty much everybody are aiming to achieve diploma, degree, and other qualification for some requirement benefits. Okay. So let us look at the basic concept of diploma disease. The first one is credential and educational inflation, and then will discuss about the education is becoming a ritualistic process, and also the delusion of education. Okay, the first concept is the credential and education inflation. Doe argued that education has become a business. Today, education has become an important part of everybody's life. it, it is a must in today's environment. Many consider university education as an investment, not a leisurely pursuit. In fact, many suffered substantial debts to obtain a university degree. In Malaysia, we have too many university producing too many graduates. Okay, not only that, the Malaysian economy has not been able to transform fast enough to absorb the graduates each year. So leaving overqualified graduates become unemployed. So we can also see that there are many courses in university for the students to enroll. Some of the courses that focuses on to an enhancement of knowledge but are not tailor-made for the learners to get jobs. So example, we have sociology, philosophy, humanities courses, and also social sciences courses. So these courses are not very popular in university because students felt that if they took these courses, it will not lead them of getting jobs. So this is what diploma disease is about. Students are more focused on what they get rather than the knowledge that they get from the courses. And because of the booming number of universities and graduates, it leads to it leads to the massive number of overqualified graduates that are unemployed. Okay, so the next concept is education has become a ritualistic process. So Ronaldo argued that not all schooling is education. Okay, schooling and education, these two words might look like it is synonymous, but in real life, these words really carries different meaning. Schools is thought as something that is indispensable. We have raised generations of people to believe that without schools and conventional education, society will collapse. Okay, so in today's society, too much time is spent fussing over grades, standardized test scores that count. Standard test scores, that countless opportunities are missed in everyday life. High school students focus too much on grades, tests, quizzes, report cards, college degrees. In fact, we can see that students, they compete among each other to get best grades for uh, and the highest CGPA. The over obsessiveness towards the grades makes the student do whatever it takes for them to pass, including cheating, and some of them plagiarize. Right. So education, on the other hand, as I've quoted from Albert Einstein, I quoted from Albert Einstein here. He stated that education is what remains after one has forgotten what one has learned in school. So education, in short, is to create creative and compassionate students who will help develop and sustain the society. So education is supposed to make learners gain values, skills, knowledge for them to face outside world. But the students are too focused on getting the certificate, making them ignore all the process and only focus on the result. I'm not saying that schools is bad and that there's nothing to gain from it. It is crucial that you understand your motives and get your goals straight to get the most out of education. If you go through school blindly, just to try and follow the path that has been defined for you, you won't get as much out of the schooling. Education can definitely happen at school. Many valuable lessons are taught at school, like how to read, write, speak, communicate. Skills like that are vital for whatever path you take in life. Okay, and the last one is Ronaldo also mentioned about the academic promises and its delusion. Now, everybody knows that a good paper qualification opens door to a better job and higher pay. However, the obsessiveness of getting qualification leads to forgery of diploma and qualification. So what's happening nowadays is there is a syndicate that are selling fake certificates from foreign countries. In Malaysia, as reported by an English daily newspaper, around the year of 2016, if I'm not mistaken, there is a syndicate that charged 6,500 for bachelor's degree, 8,500 for masters, and 10,500 for doctoral courses in various disciplines from foreign universities that were found to be non-existent. So then these so-called degree holders will then apply for job and ask for promotion using the board's qualification and join the professionals in becoming managers, engineers, bankers, lecturers, doctors, and even politicians. So this shows that diploma disease is brings a lot of negative element when people are focusing too much on the qualification, on the certificate, on getting the paper, the academic paper to enhance their status. Okay, so that is from me. I would like to pass my presentation to my next group mate. Okay, thank you very much.
Assalamualaikum and a very good day to everybody. My name is Munira. I am going to continue the presentation for diploma disease. Okay, I am going to talk to you about one, what is education inflation? Secondly, I'm going to talk about why is it important for us to spend money on education? Thirdly, the impact of diploma disease, and finally, the current status. Okay, now let's begin with what is education inflation. Now, just now Aiman had clearly explained to you about why qualification is important. Number one, for personal reason, where you want to progress in your profession and you want to get prestige and you want to develop yourself more. Secondly, qualification acts as a filter for employers so that they can get better workers and better qualified workers. So therefore, in short, qualification is supposed to be something that is good. But then, why did Ronald Dore say that diploma disease is a problem? One is his idea and one is education inflation. So let's see what is education inflation. Now, education inflation is a tendency to award progressively higher academic grades for work that would have received lower grades in the past. A simple example would be, in 1999, for a job of sales assistant, you would only require a school certificate. However, in 2020, for sales assistant, the minimum requirement is a diploma, at least to get the same position. That means education inflation is that getting higher qualification for the same job that you can acquire for a lower qualification before. So here are some examples whereby jobs that are formerly required candidates to have bachelor's degree now demands masters. When you have masters, they demand PhD. And when you have PhD, now they might demand more postdoctoral fellowship appointments. In short, we can say that even though qualification is a good thing, but education inflation gives the idea that it is very bad when you have escalating number of supply but you do not have the same number of demand. Therefore, it creates a ripple effect in the economy and it creates a lot of problems. Education inflation also creates qualification escalation. That means the same job that before only requires a degree now requires a master. So it is causing a lot of problems whereby the number of people acquiring higher qualification because of the development in education is getting higher, but the number of job is limited. So is this saying that education actually is a bad thing, that we should not develop education, that people should not get higher degree, or people should not escalate themselves in terms of qualification? No, definitely not. Why? Because education is very important. Every year, government spends a lot of money on education. For example, in the latest allocation budget of 2021, the finance minister had proposed 50.4 billion ringgit for education alone. So it is 15.6% of the total government expenditure. Not only Malaysia, all the other countries in the world does so. But why do you spend on education? Because it generates positive externalities of individuals and society, economic growth and innovation, develop human capital. This is very important because we need better educated labor force in order to achieve developed country status, and then also economic growth that results in better products and more efficient productions of technologies. Thus, it is very important for government to spend money on education. So if education is very important, then why, you ask, why does diploma disease causes a lot of problems? According to one fact by the Economic Digest, it is stated that unemployment rate in Malaysia surged to 4.6 from 3.3 in 2019. In September 2020, the unemployment rate in Malaysia is 4.6%. Another fact that was given by the Job Street is that 68% of graduates demand high pay, whereas 30% of graduates hope that they can get a salary at least 6,500 ringgit per month. So what does this example show, and how is it related to the impact of diploma disease? Right. So when people get higher qualification, naturally they demand better jobs that with better pay. But this doesn't happen because when you have diploma disease, what happens is that you get less job opportunities. So when there's less job opportunities, there are many people fighting for it. So only a limited number of people will get the job. For example, in 2000, there are a lot of ICT graduates, but there are not many number of jobs to cater for the number of graduates. Therefore, many of the graduates had to opt for a job that is beneath their qualification. What does this cause? This cause low motivation of workers because they get low wages for their jobs. They are not paid for their qualification. Therefore, this also affect productivity and affect the development of economy. Besides that, it causes unemployment and educated unemployment in a country because there are many people who are getting qualification but that they do not get jobs to cater for their qualification. So this again creates another problem. We can see that it's also a reason why this problem is also surging. Like what Aiman had said about the fake degree and everything, we can see that education today has also become a business because of diploma disease. Many mushrooming colleges and educational institution is flowering to cater for people to get education. But unfortunately, there is no balance between the number of jobs and the number of graduates. So these are some examples of diploma disease impacts on the economy and social. Besides that, there's another one that is called social gap in education. We can see the difference from Maya's point of view earlier, whereby the higher social class will get the education because of their wealth, whereas the poor social class will be left behind. And even though they get education, when they go out to find job, it is going to be more difficult for them to get jobs because they need a job to pay back for their loans. But getting jobs that is underqualified. So again, this is a vicious cycle, and this is effect of diploma disease. Here are some examples of the problems that we are going through in terms of employment and unemployment that has become very important and pertinent issues that's being discussed by the government in the media every day. So you can look at these examples in the PowerPoint that we have included. Right. Now let's move on to another important thing, which is the two sides of every coin. So it is very important for us to realize that education and qualification cannot be looked down upon also, because you need qualification and education to create the educated citizen, to create the human capital that will bring towards national building and finally causes economic development for the country. So what is the current situation, current status of diploma disease in view of the 21st century? Now, in 21st century, there are a lot of demand and changes in job scope and demand of skills. Nowadays, people are no longer looking at book smart alone. We are also considering street smart. Then education should not just depend on paper qualification per se. Later, my colleague, my friend, Unaiza is going to also explain about alternative education. Overproduction of job seekers and competition between professional bodies and employing organizations to tap pool of talent are still available. But however, these problems are still manageable, and there are many countries that are looking at ways to overcome this problem. Besides that, we can still say that diploma credential skills are still a main concern, and COVID pandemic is stressing the situation more because the gap widens between the rich and the poor because the students could not get internet access and gadgets. So that is going to be a bigger social gap between the poor and the rich. So in short, we can say that diploma disease has its pros and cons. Okay, so I'm going to stop here, then my friend is going to continue. Thank you.
Hello everyone, so I'm Sharid and I'll be talking about Ivan Illich criticism towards education, of which he presented all of his arguments in his famous book, which is called Deschooling Society, and the book is still relevant today, and a lot of the 20th pedagogy strategy as well as idea actually refer to his book, of which during that time is considered as a radical book because of the ideas that he presented are somewhat unique and at that time different from other people. He, in his book, argued that, and the book criticizes modern society, institutional approach to education, an approach that allegedly constrain learning to narrow situation in a fairly short period of time of human lifespan. And he, as a person who believes in education, really rejected the idea. And let us together see what his idea is all about. So we will start with the basis of his argument. So basically we will define and find out why did he actually criticizes education, and why did he decided to criticize it in the first place. So Ivan Illich was very concerned with the direction of the education system was heading during that time. So he believed that education system is being institutionalized, in which people actually institutionalized education has a lot of disadvantage and detrimental effects towards the society. When you when you turn education system into an institution, you focus more on the process rather than giving out knowledge for the sake of knowledge. There are a lot of other detrimental effects, such as you value business more rather than the action of giving the knowledge towards people. And he was really concerned with it, and it goes back to whatever my friends have presented before, in regard to the diploma disease, that people go to school because they want to get credentials and they want to get the diploma. They devalue the value of knowledge and skills, and that is exactly what Ivan Illich was really concerned about. And after that, he was also concerned as when education become institutionalized, it will marginalize the poor by eliminating those who do not conform to the cookie cutter standard, in which that the wealthy will have time and resources to adapt to the standard set by the institution, while the poor don't. In return, this drives the poor away from the institutionalized education, in which we can argue that education is really important to get people out of the cycle of poverty in a way. But if these people are not able to conform to whatever this institution has decided, so it will be really detrimental for them. And I think that we can also refer this particular argument towards the theory that we have learned before, which is the theory of cultural and also social reproduction theory, in which we can also argue the same thing that is happening. And it is amazing how he was very concerned during the time in the 20th century, but it is pretty much relevant today. So that is a brief summary of the reason why he is very concerned with our education system at that time. As I mentioned before, Ivan Illich was really concerned with the direction of the society is going with the current education system and what institutionalized education has actually done for them. And in turn, that he believed that rather than relying on an institution to actually give you credit, to give you knowledge, he believed that knowledge should come from a person themselves. He believes that the learning responsibility should fall on the individual. That is to say that an individual who would like to seek knowledge should know how to actually seek knowledge. And he strongly believes that there's a need for an education reform, and in order for us to reform the education, we need to view it entirely differently. So he also believed in deschooling, of which I will explain in the next slide. But because of all his belief, he decided that I'm going to propose a new type of education, and he called it a decentralized web or learning web, of which I will explain also in the next. So let us first define what deschooling is and what Ivan Illich mean by the term deschooling. So he believed that school and other learning institutions are incapable of providing the best possible education for some or most of the individual, because he believed that people learn better independently, and when they are given freedom to choose whatever they want to learn, it will be much better for them. So deschooling is an educational method and philosophy that promotes freedom for children to choose what they want to learn and are not confined by like a syllabus or things that the school decide to do for them. And it refers specifically to the process in which the student leave the traditional education to adapt to learning at home or other form of education. So that is what we mean by deschooling, that you no longer rely on school. So deschooling. So Ivan Illich, like I mentioned before, proposed a new form of education or learning in which he believed that people actually and students they go to school because they feel like school is able to provide them with the treatment that they actually need in order for them to feel valued in the society. And he actually he didn't believe in that. So he proposed a new learning network or learning webs that he coined out. And so these are the three reasons to why and also the purpose why he decided to actually propose that. All right, so these are the four things that he actually proposed when he actually came out with the idea of learning web. So the first is reference service to educational object and skill exchanges, peer matching, as well as reference service to educators at large. And so you can read that on the slides, and I will explain more on the implication of these learning webs later on in the next slides. Now let us together analyze the implication that learning webs will have towards the society and what are the kind of things that Ivan Illich is actually trying to portray in his idea of when he proposed the idea of a learning web. So I believe that the first thing that this learning web will be able to provide information to all who wish to learn at any time and at any location without relying too much on the teacher. So people will value learning for learning and value independent learning because they want to learn and not because your teacher is asking you to actually learn something. And people will seek knowledge for the value of knowledge. And the figure of a teacher over here, we can see that there are less important emphasis on having a teacher to learn. So institutionalized learning actually put a lot of effort in actually training teacher and making sure that the teacher is actually able to deliver. And what happened is that students rely too much on the teacher, and without the teacher people believe that I can't learn without my teacher, and that is a very wrong concept. And secondly, we can also see that learning web is able to encourage individual to share knowledge and to find knowledge and share knowledge to everyone wherever they are, whenever they are, because they believe that knowledge should be shared and knowledge should be exposed to other people as well. And that is the value of knowledge. When you share knowledge and when you are able to actually provide knowledge to other people, that is like the best thing about education system. And also it is also important to note that by having this idea behind this learning web as well as discussions, the whole concept of what Ivan Illich is trying to convey is that when education is no longer a commodity, when knowledge is no longer an obligation, we as human we can finally embrace the power of learning. That is the most important aspect when it comes to education and when it comes to learning. And also finally, I can also conclude that Ivan Illich is trying to put emphasis on the value of informal education. He believed that just because you don't have a school does not mean that you are not going to learn. So even if you don't have a school, we can still learn, because he believes that knowledge should come from that particular person inside. All right.
My name is Unaiza. I'll continue with alternative forms of education. So simply defines alternative education means any form of education outside the conventional schooling system. There are two forms of alternative education. What's the difference between these two? The first one, require parental decision, is elitist in substance. It has specific curriculum, education, philosophy. There are teachers trained for it, and parents be the teachers for homeschoolers. It may have a fee. The second one, require individual decision, is democratic in substance. It is lack of hierarchy, is for all ages, decentralized learning, and it's usually voluntary sharing of knowledge, skills, ideas, and information. So the first one is divided into two, homeschooling and private schools. Homeschooling is an educational practice that is entirely monitored by parents. Homeschooling is only legal in Malaysia since 2003, and it is for children with chronic diseases. However, now it is not the case. More parents with healthy kids choose homeschooling. Homeschoolers in Malaysia is close to 5,000 children, but it is actually more, and sadly there is no available data for the public. There are three types of homeschooling. Traditional or school at home is where parents are the one teaching the children. Informal education is when parents of homeschoolers get together at a place and teach their kids. And the most famous one is education center, where homeschoolers get their education using the homeschooling syllabus. And their facilities train teachers at the center. Example here is Maplewood and OC Hall, Oxford, and also MLS Care Homeschool Center. Life after homeschooling. So these people experience traditional homeschooling. Sam is the youngest Canadian Parliament member. He is only 19 years old when he was elected in 2016. And the other three are from Malaysia. They managed to get a scholarship to further their studies. They are also involved with volunteer work, giving back to community. So next is private schools. There are a few types of private schools in Malaysia. So if you look at this table, as of 30th June 2017, there are 458 schools, private schools in Malaysia. As of 17 November 2020, it has increased to 511 schools. In fact, a local newspaper brought up the issue of there are more Malaysians in private international school instead of non-citizen. So why is this happening? This is what we should ponder upon. If you take a look at 2019, there are more than 44,000 Malaysians compared to only 25,000 non-citizen. So the next one is, we move on to the next form. So we've divided it into 5 types: street school, free school, study abroad, workshop, and also online based learning. We're going to take a look at each one of these. So the first one is street school. There are numerous street schools worldwide. UNESCO has actually organized most of it alongside with the non-profit organization or also non-government organization. So we are highlighting two here, Borneo Comrade and also Buku Jalanan Chowkit. So Sabah has more than 23,000 stateless residents under the age of 21. So this is due to the influx of foreigners from the Philippines and Indonesia into the country without valid documentation. So it has become a severe problem and a threat to society if they do not get basic education and help them to develop their cultural capital. Hence, a few volunteers from University Malaysia Sabah set up Borneo Comrade with the aim to eradicate illiteracy. So far there are 3 centers. Buku Jalanan Chowkit is another street school, also educating undocumented and stateless children. And you can see from the picture, this is a founder, Siti Rohayu. Currently, there are 55 children in this school with 3 teachers. So besides learning math, science, English, Malay, geography, they also learn baking, art, coding, and also Japanese language. Volunteers came to this school and teach the students. So next is a free school in McGill's Community Garden. There are workshops like cross stitch, sharing poems, and gluten-free fun, and it's open for everyone. A study abroad and cultural exchanges is a program that students of all ages can go to certain countries, volunteer, and build a sustainable environment for the community. So Relia Borneo is an organization that coordinated projects like community resilience, water sanitation and hygiene, and also national resource management in Sabah. They have impacted the lives of almost 30,000 people. So workshop, alternative educational program, and lifelong learning classes. So basically, courses offered by establishments like Learn, which is in California, and also Tower Hamlets in London. So they're for adult and community learning. And the last type is online-based learning. Often includes online course content via live lectures or video conferencing, pre-recorded videos and presentation forums, and also online
discussion via website. So these are some of the example: MIT OpenCourseWare, the Open University, and also Khan Academy. So it is often used by homeschoolers. The pros of alternative education is the flexibility of time, place, cost, and curriculum. You can choose either American or British curriculum, the small size, non-interference among political, economic, and cultural spheres of society. And the cons, it might be it is no conformity, it is too lax. The student either sink or swim. They might do well with time management, or they might fail, and it is usually more expensive and require parents' commitment. We have presented how diploma disease offers inequality in education, where it has become a meaningless ritual and acts as a tool for a job opportunity. It even paves the way for the forgery of credentials. However, qualification is vital to a certain extent, as we need a basis for recruitment selection. We have to find a fine line between qualification and real education. So we propose that having the best of both world education is the way to go, blending the good features of public and alternative education. Hence, the future of education is embracing changes instead of remaining static. As Carl Rogers put it, the only person who is educated is the one who has learned how to learn and change. Thank you. That's all from us.